Hello, Music Multiverse listeners. Yep. It's time again. You're back, right? Okay, good. So are we. Welcome to episode 5 of Album Review, Saturdays 2026. You want album reviews, you want wild, outrageous comments, manic opinions, craziness, comparisons, whatever the hell else we can dream up. Yep, you've come to the right place. If you're coming here, you're not going to get that simple thing is, it's riffy, it's heavy, yeah, I like it. No, it's not Stallone here. It's Mark Kuligowski and damn Deb Maloney.
Hello.
I reviewed 3 albums written on BeyondYourRadio.com, but the show is an extension of that writing, that manic opinion, and non-AI driven psychobabble. But why do we do the videos? Because we wouldn't have Dam's opinion because she's not going to write. She doesn't write. She's an accountant.
Yeah, I don't write.
She does numbers, not letters. This is completely off script. We add 3 additional albums this week. And according to me, because Deb and I don't talk about this stuff, not too bad, not too shabby, and a hell of a surprise as far as I'm concerned. But we'll get there. So let's do this. Welcome to the album review blog that I wrote in this format. There's, you never know your artist, the genre we're going to take off on. We pick them randomly. Although this week it's supposed to be the final album of a metal shred institution that has probably had the most unique signature in vocal music history within the genre, besides Bob Dylan. The minute this man speaks, sings, it's that band. And despite the flack that they continue to get and endure over different decades of fans and supposed non-fans of their supposed type of shred metal, well, they're still doing it, standing tall and delivering regardless. Good for them. That's a mark in itself. No, I'm a mark in itself. Shut up.
Yeah.
The next 2 hail in mostly the jazz instrumental environment. The first has become the household name and a new voice in jazz guitar without offending a solitary historical note since he started gaining attention in 2009. He's been soloing over the last few releases, but he returns here to the meld like he's done prior in famous duos and assemblies, but we'll get there. Into a legendary keyboarding god of the jazz realm. Why not, right? The other jazz musician comes from the trip-hop world. What? Well, as he's very well-traveled, same circle as the guitarist I just mentioned. But his Swedish-Turkish roots and musicianship kind of shine the greatest I've heard on this latest Sessions piece. And Sessions was in quotes. Here we go for you on Album Review Saturdays 2026, episode 5, Megadeth. Why not call it Megadeth? Hey, as long as you haven't called it Megadeth before, I'm down with it. So many bands name their album the same as their band, several times.
Several
We did that
times.
last week? I think we did.
Yeah.
Last call on 42 years of heavy metal at the creative, vocal tenacity, and unapologetic commercialized thrash band from Los Angeles. No matter your position on Dave Mustaine or Megadeth, in their musical genre position, you cannot deny it being a pillar in the formation of the community of heaviness. They were a developmental and pivotal band along with Slayer, Metallica, and Anthrax. Without those bands, there's probably no okay. Those things led to all kind of varieties and expositions, including black metal, death metal, new metal, progressive metal. I don't know. Is there any other metal I missed? I don't know.
I don't know.
However, one could argue this band, despite the disapproval, much like that flack that Metallica gets for commercializing the sound, there's probably not one that you could list above any of those that I just mentioned as better, as longer. Arguments over the shredding albums of all time, they may not hold that. But those bands that had the greatest shredding albums of all time, they shredded and then they got shredded. They,
Yeah.
so
Mhm.
all of this on the tongue and delivery of Dave Mustaine. So the question on the self-titled finale is, how did he choose to go out? Well, the title says it all, doesn't it? Starting with the tipping point, it's probably the most timely and impactful beginning the band has had since the album Risk.
Today I may bleed, but tonight you will die. Smashed in your sleep in the blackest night. You buried the truth under layers of lies. There's no return, now you've crossed the line. Push me, I push you back. Tipping point.
Oh, nobody liked Risk. Well, Risk started off with Enter the Arena, right? And then anthem rock and things that were going on at the time. And that's kind of how they've always been kind of the societal events and his own connection to life's trials and tribulations. But this one, hold on tight to it. And the openings make the best statement to the overall album's pitch. It needed to be, and it does deliver a speedball right dead center that is necessary, right? He's up at the mound. He's pitching to you. You're listening. He's throwing it down the middle. It's your choice whether you listen to it with that angsty bullshit you've been dealing with forever that you hated because it became commercial. It became commercial because people loved it. It didn't come commercial because they said, let's make a commercial album. They can't help that people loved it and you loved it before that. Are you going to get pissed and jealous? That's dumb.
Mm-hmm.
That's stupid. They've never done anything but be Megadeth. And this record, it's perfect in the way it does it. This is Megadeth now and then. And a little something more, to be honest with you, a little something more. The album core is built on the metal riff and the shred and the timely influx of vocal Mustaine. Now, vocal Mustaine can be talky growl. It could be singy growl. It could be just him talking. Modulated, I think, or something of that nature. It's what I've always loved about them. Shredding can become lost and samey to me. That's my problem. It's Mustaine's wording, his lyrical refrains. Even the growl elevates it sometimes. A calling like, "Hey God." He doesn't go, "Hey God." He goes, "Hey God." He's going to hell just for saying it that way.
Yeah. Yes, he is.
And he's a Catholic, I think, right? So I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know.
Or I am war. All right, which are the two very different ends of that calling, yet intertwined wonderfully with the manifesting of this final album. Well, supposed final album. All right, because one thing I'm having a problem with is Dave Mustaine. After this, is he going to move to is he like something Robert Plant? Is he going to wind up with a violinist and no, I don't think so.
No, I don't think so. I'd listen to that.
Yeah. All right. So anyway, damn.
Okay. Well, do you know where he came up with the name Megadeth for the band? Okay. So he was on the 4-day bus trip from New York back to California, plotting revenge on Metallica. And there was a political pamphlet on the floor of the bus that was called The Arsenal of Megadeth. So that's where he got the name. I love stories like that. That's so great. Obviously, I think Megadeth was spelled with an A, though.
Yes, I'm pretty sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Either that or it was misspelled.
Maybe it was on a pamphlet. Maybe it was. Their skeletal mascot is a symbolism of see no evil, ears stapled shut, eyes stapled shut, hear no evil, ears capped with metal, and speak no evil, jaw clamped shut. So they really want to hold true to what they want to conjure up in people's minds as to what Megadeth is. And this was cool. Marty Friedman, the guitarist, was almost rejected due to his colored hair when he came in for an audition. And he quickly forgot about the colored hair as soon as he started playing his guitar and said, well, we can work with you. Let's do it. So you spoke about people hating them for their commercial success or their commercial, foray or whatever. But I remember that happening not too long before that with Genesis. People were hating on Genesis a lot for, the Duke album and that kind of thing. And bleh. And then you know what? Look how
Boom.
popular they were, and who cares? People like the music. Why can, they're talented people. Let them do what they love to do. And if they make money, good for them, right? Um, Now, as far as talking about this being their last album, I don't know if you read this, but 2026 is only a month old. But Mustaine was diagnosed with squamous cell carcinoma on his tongue, the back of his tongue. So, depending on where that journey goes for him, he might have to be playing the violin or something in a
Yeah,
new
that's
band.
yep.
That's you never know. That could be something that's easily treatable. I don't know much more about it as far as how he found it, what the stage is, what they've done for it so far. But there's that. So back to the album. Um, no surprise that I wouldn't have listened to this on my own ever. But Tipping Point, if I had to pick a song on this album, it was Tipping Point. That I was trying not to like it.
You can't.
You cannot like it, right? For me, it it's way too thrashy for me. This kind of music has always been, even though I applaud them, I recognize their talent, and 40 years of doing what they're doing is pretty amazing. 45 years almost, right? I think 80. No, he was with Metallica for a couple of years, and then
Mhm.
81 to 83 or something. But yeah, I mean, like, even who he, says his influences are. I like Iron Maiden. I like the Sex Pistols. I like jazz fusion. I think he just puts it all together in one song. On one album, like all at once. It's confusing to me, but all in all, good luck to him and everything that's going on, and hopefully they'll have a reunion tour or something.
Well, yeah, this being the big tour and
Hmm.
finality to that. I'm a
Hmm.
sucker for what he and his ever-changing bandmates obviously come up with because he's never really had a systematic same people all
Hmm.
the time. But the Puppet Parade is a prime example of the famous, fantastical, lyrical composition that is Megadeth. Um, it fits his gravel, his mojo, and you, the listener, know that he's not a rock god when he's saying this. He's you.
Yeah.
He's me. He's in this with us. It's not
Hmm.
glorious, and in the end, he questions, like all of us, will it all matter? The timing is right, and I use the term right as in WRITE. The flow of the album resonates with the years of albums and passion of its players. And for those that are still with me and are still paying attention, are you paying attention? Shredding, soloing, and acoustic guitar artsmanship? Yep. The last note has it lock, stock, and all the smoking barrels. It becomes an incredibly well designed end to it all, finding a final positional note to go out on. It's ultimately clever. I came, I ruled, and now I disappear in an acoustic fade out. Someday, we'll be doing the catalog review show of Megadeth, and I'm, for now, content that it would be an absolute struggle to find this album easily placed at the back end. Dave Mustaine, Megadeth, they did obey the call to the music, and they delivered again, one last time for themselves and the true fans of a genre that helped mold and bring to the masses. So, if this was your first time, well, then welcome to Megadeth, my friends. And now you get to go back and enjoy, and you will. Julian Lage, Scenes from Above. Child prodigy. Stop. Boring. Who cares? Let's talk about right here, right now. All right. This is now a man in a position to become a legend in the overall historical position in the jazz fusion, and maybe even in blues and rock fusion into jazz, considering the connection to avant-garde rock jazzman John Zorn, saxophonist extraordinaire and compositional master in that. So guitarist Lage has put together an incredible run of connectable solo albums as of late, starting from Modern Love in 2018 all the way through to View with the Room in 2022. Now, in that time frame, he got on Blue Note. So when you get on Blue Note, you're done. They're not going to let you go unless you suck. And when you're a old child prodigy, you're not going to suck ever. So he will be on Blue Note until he decides to own Blue Note or whatever. He's learned his ability to mold and meld into the flow of improv of trios and duos of full bands is a foretelling of it all, just as much as it's the building blocks for molding a savant into a relatable musician at the highest level. You can be a savant, you can be a prodigy, and you can be extremely boring. You're playing it to be careful who's listening, right? Actually, I believe he even had a disease at that nature because of doing that, the repetition of things, in that browbeating kind of, whiplash kind of bullshit that happens, right?
Yep.
So who do you compare this guy to, right? Because you got to make him relatable. He and the way he is, his weapon is phrasing and timing. So me, I'm going to go right at the core, and it's going to be people that are going to think I'm crazy. And that's because he's not there where that is yet. But I think John McLaughlin. I think this guy can play with the Mahavishnu Orchestra, but he can also go with this rock band. He can meld into it and either become the front or the back of it. Jeff Beck and a Bill Frisell. So because they're talking about the incredible timing again, and that phrasing it exemplifies. But on Scenes from Above, be careful of your expectations on Julian at the helm, because it's not quite like that this time. It's something more. Damn.
Well, I know you don't give a crap about the fact that he was a child prodigy, but he actually was a subject of an Oscar-nominated documentary called Jules at 8. And I did find that interesting. Anyway, so, okay. You talked about the whole browbeating whiplash thing that can happen. I read that for this album, he actually wrote the songs with a timer, only letting 20 minutes lapse for each song. That's crazy talent, crazy discipline, but sometimes could backfire, I would think.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, because sometimes your creative juices just doesn't have a timer on it, right? So that
when
was
you write the
interesting.
song and it's called Failure and there's nothing underneath it, you're like, oh, okay.
That would be me.
Guys, let's improv. Let's improv this.
Yeah. Well,
silence.
At 15 years old, he was a faculty member at Stanford Jazz Workshop. That's impressive. And I'm sure that he had some professors there that kind of held a little grudge against him. Like, what does this kid know, right?
Pants him
he just
now.
he just got a promotion and I didn't. He has a signature like dampened sound in his guitar sometimes. And that was something that one of his instructors or something, he kept saying, I can't get my sound the way I want it, but couldn't really explain why or how or what he was trying to do. This instructor threw a handkerchief on the top of the guitar to dampen the sound, and he uses that technique a lot in his recordings, which is interesting too. As far as this album goes, oh God, it was so good. So good. Some of the songs that I love was Nightshade. That was a really cool keyboard. So it's not all guitar. That's what's so great about this. It's layered, Havens, the one song that had like a prog feel to it. Talking Drum was groovy. It just felt like he was drawing from a lot of different genres. He loves Stevie Ray Vaughan. He loves Pat Metheny. But this, I don't think you could listen to this album and pick one influence. He's his own influence. Like, I mean, people out there, he's what, 38 years old? He's not even 40 years old. And I bet there's a lot of budding guitarists out there that are citing him as their influence for sure.
Yeah.
So very good. Very good.
I'm going to start at the end. Yeah. Like my
Okay.
good friend Christopher Nolan did once or twice. Okay. He's not my good
Twice.
friend. I just, come on.
He could be.
Yeah, he could be. Well, great friends to have and to trust is where this all kind of starts.
Okay.
Come on, you didn't think I would name drop Christopher Nolan and have a place I was going with it, right? I have a place, right? It's great to have that. And what you want to do is we'll talk about John Medeski.
Okay.
Piano, keys, synth, John Medeski trio, Medeski, Martin, and Wood. For the first time being with Julian. And that's something you have to envelop and get to appreciate. That the two have been friends for a while, but never together. We bring in the bassist, Jorg Roeder, who's French. He's got that Peruvian swagger, connected jazz tissues with Zorn and Nels Klein. Now, whom Lage has worked with twice, I believe, who just is the contemporary comfort and that chilled brilliance to it all in the back. So, and they got drummer Kenny Wollison, gentle, impressive, kind of, he's got that impeccable timing too to let the jazz kind of be what it is, right? All of these men, and I believe even soundtrack composer Patrick Warren from the HBO series True Detectives, he's in this as well. The quartet is the mission. This is the composition meant to be more than Lage. And Lage wrote, like Deb said, in those minutes. Then those went to them, and they molded the rest with him or without him, okay? So coming to life around him through their instruments. In fact, honestly, unabashedly, kind of free himself from the confines of the curse of being a child prodigy. Memorization and all that bull crap, right? That you gotta feel the flow. You have to you have to inject, you have to reject, and you step off without fear of yourself or others. And this is a prime example of that. There's no one better at this than John Medeski. All right. That man steps off, falls off a cliff every time he touches the keyboards. He can go into places that are just the flow and faculty around him could be the spontaneity. They got no choice. And Lage is no scaredy cat. He's worked with Nels Klein, who can sometimes find scary and make it cower. Even though he's part of Wilco, he's the darker part of Wilco. Some of his early jazz records are even the covers. I don't even know why you would buy the album. But I did, of course, because I'm sick of that. What I love about this record within this context is that he brings in acoustic guitar as well as electric. He allows the bass to shine elegantly, like on pieces like Ocala. Although therein lies this one song that comes right after Ocala that I don't know what they're doing. Storyville. Seems like somehow we got moved into a tuning distortional disposition, juxtaposition, and pole position. Should this have been in the beginning of the record where they're just tuning up? There's a story in there somewhere, but no one knows what the hell it is. I know it shouldn't have been at the end because that would have sucked.
Yes.
So I don't know. Anyway, that moment was a yikes and continues to be. Sorry. Scenes from Above seems to be the overlook of Julian Lage compositions brought to life and improv at the love, respect, and mutual playmanship, tenacity, and contemporary jazz position of a uniquely assembled quartet. It works kind of 8 out of those 9 tracks. It's a great cast and delivery with each of them being integral to be the moving part of that musical pieces and the sound. There's a sound connectivity through all that phrasing, the timing and the positions of the minor solos, the intros, a little bit of diversions here and there. The skill set is tremendous. Okay. So what? So what? I don't need memorization. I need creativity. And I felt that this was, again, one of those. And at the beginning of this, I wasn't quite sure whether that was going to be the case. But it was. So Scenes from Above, allow this all for all of them and something more for us, the listener, as well as one of the best fade outs of an album in a long while. So pay attention to that if you haven't listened to it yet. All right, I'm going to butcher this name probably. This is the Istanbul Sessions in Mahalle, which is a town or a neighborhood in the area of Istanbul.
Okay.
And the gentleman who is at the helm here is İlhan Ersahin.
That's how I would say it. Good job.
So here's where it gets all connectedly weird. He is Swedish, Turkish musician, created out of Berkeley School of Music, gets heard and appreciated by a musical label in San Francisco that just happens to have a drummer by the name of Kenny Wollesen, who just was on the prior record we were just talking about as the drummer with Julian Lage.
Wow.
So the first creative process put him in the genre of post-bop and a comfortable compositional arena to be appreciated as a saxophone player, kind of gaining a foothold. You can't just go in, your saxophone ablazing, based on what you were doing in 1990 as a child, where you loved reggae and you loved this and you loved that. You do have to have and start somewhere. So the dreams and melding of that aspirations of fusion are coming. All right. But in that coming to the United States, I think he knew he had to have a strong cemented position in contemporary style before bending it like John Zorn. Yes, another link to John Zorn is Mr. İlhan. And he, like Julian Lage, this is an incredible ensemble of people that I will not say their names because they're too hard. It's tied into that music scene, and this is a shining example, like that of Lage Quartet, of an exceptional non-contemporary jazz fusion. So this place is a poor district in Istanbul, so that you have some direction to the geography and the mood of this particular session, because he has done 6 or 7 of these sessions since putting it all together. I don't know if they're always the same musicians, but I'm sure they probably have some familiarity. What it does is it gives you the effervescence, I'll call it, of an incredible scene of an area that, despite its position and status, which is poor, is alive in culture, hustle, bustle, rise above the din. All right. That position and liveliness is the saxophone position of him, accompanied by marvelous bass line thumps and groove, as if it were kind of slinking and sinking or pushing through the crowd, or even the temperature of the mood and the surroundings. I've never been. I don't think I ever will, but, never know. I liken the saxophone experience to In Excess without Michael Hutchins and lyrics in some cases in the works, especially Tunnel, which might be said tunnel, I don't know. Where the funk and rock kind of take over, but also in the long sax lines that give that evening mood, driving you to distraction. While we need you tonight, to survive. There's a captain at the helm, a certain mood, a certain carefree improvisation that's throughout this that reminds you that this is a jazz fusion record, kind of grounding your ear so that you're not like completely, I don't know, lost. Not lost. Lost isn't a good word, but there's a band called Red Snapper. If you don't know them, there's another one I would say that this is kind of has this. This is an album that puts you in the thick of it, in the neighborhoods, which is the meaning of Mahalle. Damn.
Wow, that's a lot of information. That I didn't know I needed to know, but now I do. Um, it's interesting that he started playing sax when he was 16 years old.
Yeah.
That is to me very interesting, but now knowing where he grew up and what kind of, environment and poverty, I'm sure it wasn't really easy to get your hands on an instrument when you were younger. And so I'd like to know the backstory of how he got into that. Nora Jones was a lead singer on his experimental group Wax Poetic back in 1997, before she was a name we've all heard of. That was an interesting tidbit for me.
Trip hop.
Yeah, yep. Uh, on this album, there was no pre-recorded electronica, which is interesting because, like, you think you're hearing some of that, and he's got great musicians with him, obviously. This sometimes I shy away from these musicians that are putting albums out that is like a sax forward person. Like, okay, I don't know if I can listen to an entire album of saxophone, but that's not what this is at all. So that was a pleasant surprise for me. Some of the songs I liked that I could pronounce, Falling, Our Theory, but I really liked, I don't know if I'm saying this right, Yeti Tepe.
Yeti Tepe. Yeah.
I don't know if that was, I thought maybe that was a Star Wars
Mm.
reference, but that was really theatrical. And you said how some of the sax is real drawn out, and there's crescendos, and there's little cliffs that you feel like he's keeping you hanging over, which is good. The anticipation of where is it going to go in the next five measures. And you mentioned that he was really into reggae and ska at one point. Interesting. As a saxophonist, I find that really interesting.
Yeah.
You know, but
Yeah, I think he had
and
a
he
Marley record as a kid or whatever back in
and
that.
that's where that came from. That makes sense. And I mean, how much different of a world
Mhm.
was he imagining in
Right, and
his
then the
Turkish
electronica too, which
neighborhood?
is nowhere in that. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
It's very
yeah. So
Laswellian, to be honest with you, Bill Laswell.
yeah. So cool album, and yeah, I couldn't pronounce half of what I was
Yeah,
reading about.
I mean this.
So
Um, the group of musicians has this down pat, and there's no question they kind of gobble up the whatever the leader's putting down, so to speak.
hmm
Um,
hmm
yeah, the non pre-recorded electronica, that's an amazing feat because it is there, it's in
hmm
within. So that means
right,
they're doing it as improv or putting it in there as it's going. There are
right.
all kinds of interesting inflections of sound. It's almost like if sound had a topography, this could
Mm,
possibly have that. I mean, that if you can extend your
yeah.
brain that way, and that's probably the interesting band potential connection with Wax Poetic. I think I have like one album maybe.
Okay.
I don't think she's on it though. I think mine's later. Um, you're diving into those areas of neighborhoods that might even have your ear and head on a certain swivel, right? So you're seeing this. It borders on intensity, but it winds up being a bewitching awareness with the bass and the drum keeping you like quasi comfortable. Like you're okay to walk.
Mm,
Okay, let's take it away from Istanbul. Let's put it at Bourbon Street. You know,
yeah.
that
Uh-huh.
drum and the bass are Bourbon Street. You don't step
Yes.
off Bourbon Street, you might not come back. All right, so
Yeah,
this is
yes.
a,
Okay, got
there,
it.
there, there are kinds of albums like this that expand your musical listening experience, and this is definitely one of them. They're allowing you to kind of find an influence while learning that which kind of garnered their influences and how they listen to things. The Istanbul Sessions is a tight and amazing example of such musical finds in this year, anyway, in instrumental jazz fusion. Here's hoping that you find it in your neighborhood of listening habits. Where it takes you from there could be amazing. Oh, all right. So extras, read all about it. We got three for you, and start off with the the Canadian pop alt rock institution, much like Megadeth, has been around for 40 plus years. I'm pretty sure at this point, if I'm correct.
Yep.
5440. Yes, a number 5440. Now, typing it, you may want to be different in finding it if you don't know who they are. You can type 5440. You can type 54-40. You can type 54 asterisk 40. But the album is Porto. And no, there's no Porto in Canada. Not that I'm aware of. There's ports, but not Porto. They're in Portugal recording this. I don't know why that's important. When this kicks off, I'm in the place that they've been. I've always known and counted on 5440 to be a sing-along pop rock alt institution. You know, like I Go Blind, Ocean Pearl. Yeah, I Go Blind. Yeah, it's not Hootie's song, just so you know. They okay, they took it and they paid for it handsomely.
Yes,
so
they do.
You know, all right. So Ocean Pearl, Sheila, Lies to Me, you know, that's this band, all right. But it's those other songs that kept this band in a tug of war for years, with the Tragically Hip as the best band in Canada.
Yes.
The oddities like Music Man, Casual Viewing, and even later ones like Animal in Pain. So on this particular album, they got this song called Go Get 'Em. All right. Old school, along with Die to Heaven. Yeah. These are all those sing along, catch you up, get, you know, the crowd is in. There's no signature you didn't miss. And on this album, there's only one for me that is that deep cut, because that's where this band kind of held its longevity in those things, because you wanted to be there when they did something they haven't done, or they modified the sound. And this is Whale, Numinous. Is that it's the deep cut, the reverb, the mood, the displeasancy, and the uncertainty to where it's going in the depth of it all. But ultimately, it's not enough. In the fold of all these marvelous records from the 90s, and the early 2000s, this is a good record, put together by a band that knows how to put these things together, like a Sloan, you know, where I was just hoping for a couple of other ones that caught me off guard, but I wasn't caught that off guard. However, this is still a band that knows how to handle themselves, engage the crowd. They change things up live. And suddenly you're in a Jimmy Buffett song version of one of these tracks, and you're like, how did that come? And there is an album that, if you want to hear how they change things up, there's an album called La Différence, and they changed the tunes. And they've done that also on Heavy and Mellow, which is a double live album. So, damn, what's your 5440 on this one?
Well, yeah, the Hootie and the Blowfish thing, I didn't realize that. But they do. They make lots of money off of it. So that's good. Helps them with their being able to go to Portugal. And
yes, to record. Yes.
And
next one, Bora Bora.
Yeah, there you go. 5440, if people don't know, that's a 19th century political slogan for the boundary dispute in 1840 on the Oregon Territory between the Rockies and Pacific, claimed by both Great Britain and the US, and they're from a border town in British Columbia. So I'd like to know which one of them was a history buff, because it's kind of cool. But they're probably from one of those little towns like we've got in the South that is still fighting the Confederate War. So I don't know.
They still pack a musket. Is that what you're saying?
And like, we're gonna stop Sherman's march, but you know, that was 800 years ago.
No.
Yeah, really. You know, this band has been around for, what'd you say, 45 years or whatever. And it's so hard to know, like when you listen to this album or any of their albums, but you can hear other Canadians in it. Now, who took who from who? What came first, the chicken or the egg kind of thing, right? Virgil, I like that song that had a hip feel. Some of the songs had Bryan Adams feels to it. Die to Heaven was a Southern rock for me in the beginning, opening of it. I liked Running for the Fence. But like you said, this wasn't the album for me that I went, this is why they're 5440.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So
They'll get a
but
couple of
good.
songs. A couple of songs will be played live. They'll be great, but they'll go back to that which
Yes.
is. Yeah.
Yes, but I had it on a lot, just even after the fact of doing my initial reviews and stuff. It's in my wheelhouse, so it was an easy listen for me.
Yeah. Yep. No question. So we go to the Jack Rubies. Visions in the Bowling Alley. This is noir post-punk extravaganza that's been going on for quite a while out of London. Under my radar, but this is that warning that you can't just group something and ignore it, right? This is a formidable institution that, like those mentioned above, have a signature that's something borrowed and something new. Punk, sure. Noir, they got some Bowie, Nick Cave, Oingo Boingo, and maybe even a little Midnight Oil, but old school Midnight Oil. All right.
Yeah, the old school.
They'll play anything. Psychedelic horroring harmonies. Wait a minute. Wait, what just happened? There's a haunt, and there's a talky vocal, and then a violin.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
Takes his usual seat, rolls along the bus he always rides. He died in 1952 before teenagers ruled the world, before the glitterati stole the stage.
I think the song is Dead Man, right? I'm sucked in. I was like, holy shit. What is, and this band, if you were listening to 5440 and playing this record, you go, this is what they could have done and what they used to do, right? That's where I was anyway. Damn.
Agreed. Well, they started as a band due to something in Britain that was called Thatcher's Enterprise Allowance Scheme that gave unemployed youth a weekly allowance to start a business. So they started a business of being a band, which I think right there shows that's thinking outside the box.
Yes.
Isn't that cool?
Give me money to do something with it. Yeah. Instead of just giving me money to go piss it away. I like it.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's back in the day, though. So don't hope
I know. Back when a dollar was a dollar. Instead of being a dollar's $10.
So that was interesting to me because, in my line of business, I work with a lot of youth that don't take anything that's been given to them and, make it into something bigger for themselves. But obviously, now the Jack Rubies, I mean, I was born in 1962. So the JFK thing has been part of my life. My mom always saying, I remember I was feeding you when we heard, but anyways, they got their name from a Trivial Pursuit game clue that said who was the perpetrator of the first live TV assassination. So how can you not go into this album and go, I love these people already? Sense of humor, hardworking, creative. They named the usual suspects as their influences, but also like T-Rex, the glam thing, and Bowie, but James Brown and Funkadelic. And I think all of that lends to this interesting feel that this album has. Like Asteroid had a B-52s feel. Okay, you might expect that from this kind of band, but then Are We Being Recorded? I love that song. Phantom was so interesting. I don't know, like, I think the flow of it isn't as cohesive as some of the other albums we listened to because there were so many different things going on, but it still worked for me.
Yep. I
It
agree.
still worked for me. I was intrigued by it. And especially, I'd love to meet them. I bet they're really interesting people.
Yeah, I was blown away. Um, Creativity, right? Back to where we
Yeah.
talked about Lage. The Jack Ruby's an excellent surprise and one that I thoroughly was caught off guard by. It's an amazing record. They don't, that do a bit of this, some of that. There's an album, there's a song, was it Lobster, on another record, and they got the guys playing bongos to start. So when I think of like post punk, bongos is the first freaking. No, it's not. It's not even close to what I'm thinking of. Right? That's bonkers.
Yeah, yeah.
Don't get caught in your own trance. Don't get comfortable. Comfortability is not the greatest place to do things. Pretty soon you're playing the same songs because
Yeah.
that's the only thing that works. And this band, no, no, no, no, no, no, and really, really good. I loved it.
Yeah, me
All
too.
right. Speaking of things I loved, Australian indie folk rock band that took me by surprise in 2023 at the Roadhouse. They was at that Fleetwood Mac meets Midnight Oil. They're called the Paper Kites, and their new
Mhm.
record in 2026, 3 years later, is If You Go There, I Hope You Find It. Well, they went there. They went back home. They sat on a porch and the pizzazz is gone, and so is the edge. There's no home run shots. This is basically a slow contemporary indie alt country record with a banjo and melody, and there's nothing wrong with it. Nothing. It's fabulously paced to be a slow horse walk through a property, a homestead, memories and familiarity of love or familiarity, right? However, I really I wanted something tremendous, and the only track that gave me that, not in speed or was Stormwall.
When the wind crashed below, through the haze and the shadows grow, tell me where can I go? Stonewall, we got so high above it all. If I let you go now, I don't know how far I'd fall.
That offered the best position that I remember from the prior record. But damn, I didn't know if you remembered the prior record or not.
No, I didn't. But this was uh, this was an emotional album for me. I don't know why. I've been in a weird place, and every time I put this one on, I start crying and didn't even know why. Now, that's a compliment to them if they
Mm-hmm.
can make you feel that way, even though I can't tell you why. Um,
I can tell you why. I'll save it.
okay. So they were wedding singers at one time, and wouldn't that have been cool if they actually played at your wedding and now they're putting out albums and stuff? Um, when they play live, they switch instruments mid songs, which is you don't see that happen a lot.
Nope.
Um, Sam Bentley, is he the lead singer?
Yep.
He has a small tattoo of a cup of tea where you'll never find it, he says.
In the
Don't know if I
Sahara?
needed to know.
What? Oh.
Yeah, I don't know if I needed to know about that, Sam, but and David Powie works as a barista when not on tour. I love those kinds of things. They're just normal people, normal folks like us, right? Um, they list people like Dylan and Simon and Garfunkel and CSN and Mumford and Sons, and I like all those people. So I felt on this album I got a little bit of the Mumford and Sons, but a toned down, more organic, maybe delicate feel to it.
Very delicate, yes.
Very delicate. Uh, the one song, When Lavender Blooms, that's about Sam's family life, balancing home with touring, and how that can be the demise of any artist's family life is the touring side of it, and what he's had to do to make sure that he is sustaining both sides of that coin, so to speak. Change of the Wind. I like that song. I thought it was very layered with melodies. It was at first listen, it was simplistic, but then when you listened more, it wasn't. Um, I could see that there was other stuff going on there. Like I said, it had me tearing up, and I'm hoping that my therapist sitting across from me can tell me why.
All right. Somehow, despite the collaboration, that entity of the band, the only top of mind piece,
Yeah.
Sam.
Okay.
He's making you cry. His vocal delivery is that intense,
Yeah. Yeah.
which puts that in a dangerous position for me and the band, I think. He seems to be the centerpiece of this record where he
Yeah.
was and wasn't in the prior, and I'd rather see them have a little step in this. The band does not
Got
get
it.
off like they that tremendous moment they need, and they need that. Harmonies are still
Mhm.
there, close to exceptional as the prior, but careful how mellow and acoustically rooted you go.
Mhm.
So yeah, I'm hopeful, but I can't remember if I went back at the other records yet because I think there were two beforehand, so maybe that's where
I
they
think so.
I don't know. So what did you think of these 6 records? Here we go again. Join me next week alone, which means it's going to get really heavy, really dirty. We will address the elephant in the room as Lord, and that. Oh, how to there's a band with a lovely backhanded title compliment, and I might even kick over an urn.
Oh.
We're on the web at beyondyourradio.com, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, articles, videos, podcasts, all about music, albums, bands, artists, anything we can get our hands on. Go Beyond Your Radio with us, a real music appreciation channel. I'll see you tomorrow for Unknown Sundays, where I ask the age-old question, what is it with music and horses? Thanks for watching, and happy listening.